An important scientific discovery that was vital to the development of motion pictures is the persistence of vision.
This is a phenomenon that occurs in the eye by which an image persists for approximately 1/25th of a second on the retina. This is why films are filmed in 25 frames a second, as this optical illusion causes the human mind to process them all together into motion perception.
Edward Muybridge was a pioneer in creating motion picture.
In 1877 to 1878, he harnessed this information about the eyes into his creation, the zoopraxiscope. This was considered the world's first movie projector and works by projecting images from the rotating glass discs in rapid succession to give the impression of motion. This was viewed from the above.
William Fraser-Greene was a British pioneer in film that invented the enhanced magic lantern in 1886. The magic lantern was one of the earliest motion picture cameras and projectors to project photographic plates in rapid succession. He realised that glass plates were an impractical medium for motion picture and began experimenting with oiled paper and eventually celluloid.
Unlike the zoopraxiscope, the magic lantern actually projected images onto a screen. In 1892 to 1893, businessman and inventor Thomas Edison was known for his many inventions. These included the phonograph and the first practical long-lasting electric light bulb. Edison created the first motion picture camera known as the kinetograph. He also invented the kinetoscope known as the peephole viewer in 1891. This allowed viewers to view short, simple films and was installed in many penny arcades.
The Lumiere brothers were Auguste and Louis Lumiere. They had the first ever public screening of a film in 1895. This was known as the birth of the cinema, and the film was Arrival of a Train, which depicted a train arriving at a station. The clip was only 49 seconds long and was filmed on their invention, the cinematograph, a motion picture camera that also serves as a film projector and printer. Upon screening, the audience, who had never seen anything like this before, ran out of the cinema afraid that the train was real and was actually going to run into them.
George Méliès was the first person to use artificially arranged scenes to construct and tell a narrative story, such as A Trip to the Moon in 1902. He used special effects such as the substitution stop trick in 1896, multiple exposures, time-lapse photography and fades or dissolves. He was one of the first filmmakers in history to do this.
Edwin S. Porter was an American early film pioneer who directed Thomas Edison's manufacturing company. He took ideas from George Méliès' film Life of an American Fireman in 1903, such as putting in gradual transitions of images, such as fades and dissolves, so the audience has an understanding of outdoor movement. This was the first use of parallel editing and to manipulate time and space. He was also the first editor and edited The Great Train Robbery in 1903 by assembling 20 separate shots into a 12-minute film. His use of cross-cutting showed several various actions in many different locations, both indoor and outdoor, to construct a narrative for the audience.
D.W. Griffin edited the 1915 film The Birth of a Nation, which is the first feature-length American film, through the use of altering camera angles, close-ups especially, flashbacks and breaking up scenes into multiple shots to make the pace of the film faster so the audience stays immersed. He was the first to fully realise the potential of editing to provide long-lasting and understandable continuity for a full-length film.
Lev Kuleshov demonstrated the Kuleshov effect in 1925, which is a montage, where two shots shown in sequence derive more of a meaning to viewers rather than a single isolated shot. He edited together a montage where a shot of a man's face is shown and then a shot of a child in a coffin that gives the viewers a sense that the man is sad. Then the same shot of the man is seen again, but this time after that there is a shot of a bowl of soup that makes the man look as if he's hungry. Then finally, the shot of the man is shown once again, but the last shot is of a woman on a sofa that makes the man look as if he's lustful.
Following the action is an editing technique used to cut the film in a way that always keeps focus of the action or subject in a scene. An example of this is Alfred Hitchcock's Rope, which is well known for its long takes, which are 20 minutes long, the length of one reel. These takes constantly follow the action and are actually split into two 10-minute scenes. He attempts to hide the editing by transitioning secretly when an actor or an object blocks the full frame.
Multiple points of view is where the editor cuts to different points of view throughout a scene, concentrating on a subject or event taking place as seen here in this clip from Iron Man.
Shot variation is where an editor constructs a scene from various shot types such as long shots, medium shots, close-ups, extreme long shots and establishing shots. This makes the scene more interesting and the narrative easier to follow.
Manipulation of time and space is where the editor changes the speed of the film so the audience are shown a longer period of time in a fairly short time, such as flashbacks, time lapses, to transition over a period of time, or, as you can see in our example here taken from Sherlock Holmes, a flash forward.
Through the use of artificially arranged scenes, storytelling is an editing principle where techniques such as stop trick, substitution photography, where objects disappear, dissolves or fades, time-lapse, stop-motion photography, double and multiple exposures, flashbacks and cross-cutting are used to narrate a scene. George Méliès uses these techniques in his film A Trip to the Moon.
Another editing principle is keeping the viewer engaged throughout the whole scene, such as storytelling, fast cuts in action films to keep up the pace of the narrative in the scene, slow-paced cuts in romance films to capture the emotion within a scene, and a mixture of both in a horror film used to create and build tension.
Providing and withholding information is where an editor places the scene of a film out of the chronological order so the audience catch glimpses of different times, both beginning or to the end, to hide certain pieces of information within the narrative from the viewers, or giving out information for the audience to follow the storyline. An example of this would be in the film Fight Club, where the male protagonist realizes that the Tyler persona was in his head the whole time and he was talking to himself throughout the movie instead of an actual person.
A combination of shots is a variety of different shots in a sequence in a scene. This is an example from Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. This principle is used in almost every single modern film.
The rule of thirds is a guideline where in the composition, a grid made up of two vertical and two horizontal lines are equally placed over the frame, and the main subject of the shot is aligned to the intersections in this grid to make it look more aesthetically pleasing, as the human eye doesn't focus on the centre of an image, but rather the 4 points created when the lines intersect. The editor would cut the shot to apply with this rule.
Continuity editing is where shots are cut to maintain a clear and continuous narrative by following a set of rules such as the 180-degree rule, 30-degree rule, shot reverse shot, and more.
A jump cut is an editing technique which manipulates time in a single shot using a fast cut to go forward in time slightly in the same shot, keeping focus on the subject.
A motivated edit is where a person or object appears in frame after not being in the last frame. We see examples of this all the time in horror movies where the victim hears a noise and looks over their shoulder to see if anyone is there, but there isn't. Then the next time they look over their shoulder, the murderer is standing right next to them, about to kill them.
The 180-degree rule is a guideline used in filming in which an imaginary axis connects the characters in a scene, and the camera may only be positioned within a 180-degree angle to one side of the line. This is used to keep the continuity.
The 30-degree rule states that when cutting between shots there should be at least a 30-degree difference between the shot angles, because anything less than 30 degrees would seem like an insignificant change, and more than a 30-degree change means the audience gains a lot more information about the shot.
Direction and movement in editing is where the cuts are edited to keep continuity consistent on the subject using movement. For example, if a character walks out of the frame to the left, they will enter on the left as well in the next frame.
Parallel editing is also known as cross-cutting, which shows two or more scenes happening at the exact same time in either the same or a different location.
POV, or point of view, is a filming technique where the filming occurs from a first-person perspective to show the character's point of view. This is done to give a more personal feel to the events taking place in the scene. A point of view cut is where the point of view shot is implemented into the scene. For example, the first shot would show the subject in another type of shot, such as a medium close-up, and then it would cut to the subject's point of view.
Shot reverse shot is a technique that involves two characters talking in a scene and the camera keeps flicking between characters as they have their conversation. This helps the progression and consistency of the scene.
A cutaway is where the shot cuts away to a different scene that is related to, but outside the main action of the scene, cutting away to a secondary action. This is used to provide context to the narrative for the audience.
An insert is a shot that is part of a scene filmed from a different angle to the main shot. Even though inserts show all the action happening in the master shot, it emphasises the scene from a different aspect or perspective. This is however not the same as a cutaway because cutaways do not cover action shown in the main shot.
Transitions are the process of changing from one shot to another during editing. There are four main types of transition: cut, dissolve, fade and wipe, that all evoke different emotions. A cut is where one shot instantly replaces another. This is the most common type of transition in films and television programs because it is simple. Dissolve is also known as overlapping because one shot is gradually replaced by another one as it fades out or fades in for a few seconds. The shots are both visible as they overlap.
A fade transition is a basic transition in which the picture fades to a black screen or a solid colour. These are rarely used in feature films because they imply the end of a major story segment. A wipe is a dynamic transition commonly associated with sci-fi films such as Star Wars. A wipe is where one frame comes in and pushes the other one off the screen.